Good morning, class. Today we've got science. I'm teacher Sarah. I will be your teacher in science. Have fun and enjoy the lesson. So first, I'm going to show you a picture that is related to our topic for today. So what do you see in this picture? What are the things that do you see in this picture? So for example, we have a bird. What else are in this picture? I'm gonna give you a few minutes to think and you tell me what are the things that are in the picture. So that's right. We have a bird. We have a squirrel. We have a fish. We have a tree. We have a snail. We have a mushroom. And we have a person. So these are what we call living things. All of these things that are in the pictures are what we call living things. And they are all alive. Living things are alive. So what can living things do? Let's start and watch the video about living things so we can learn more about living things. And watch carefully and listen. I will show you more in the next slides. What can living things do? So let's start watching.
Huh?
Hmm. Ah. Hmm. Hmm.
Huh?
Ah. Aha.
Huh?
Okay, what are the characteristics of living things? So, for example, we have the vocabulary here. We have can grow, can move, can reproduce, can breathe, can respond to stimuli, need food and water, can remove waste. Again, for the vocabulary of the characteristics of living things, we have can grow, can move, can reproduce, can breathe, can respond to stimuli, need food and water, and can remove waste. So we have 7 characteristics of living things. So let's see in the following slides what are these characteristics. So number 1, we have can grow. It means it can get bigger. So from baby to a big adult, or an egg to a big chicken, or a small plant to a big plant. So living things can grow. Next, we have living things can move. Can move, it means movement. So, for example, we have plants here, they move towards the sun to see the sunlight. And for people, we can run, we can walk. And for animals, they can run, walk, slither, fly. So living things can move. Can move. Again, living things can move. That's right. Next one is living things can reproduce or have babies. Okay, reproduce means to have more. They can have babies. So we can have more elephants, we can have more dogs, we can have a sister, we can have a brother. So living things can reproduce. Means they can have babies. We can have more babies. Next, living things can inhale and exhale. So living things can breathe. Living things can breathe. So we can breathe oxygen. Plants can breathe oxygen, and as well as animals. All living things can breathe. Next, living things can respond to stimuli. Respond to stimuli, it means we can feel hot, we can feel cold, we can get scared when there's a monster next to us. So living things can respond to stimuli. It means we can respond to things around us. Again, living things can respond to stimuli. Next, living things can remove waste. It means, again, when we eat a lot or drink a lot, things that we don't need in our body, things that are excess, we remove it as waste, things that are bad for us. So, living things can remove waste. Again, living things can remove waste. Next, living things need food and water. Living things need to eat food and drink water. So we can grow, we can have energy, because if we don't eat, we will feel weak. So living things need food and water. What else do all living things need? So, for example, all living things need water to drink. Water to drink. All living things need food to eat. Need to eat food. All living things require a shelter to live in, a house or a habitat. And all plants require sunlight to grow. All living things need to breathe air. So again, all living things need water to drink. All living things need to eat food. All living things require a shelter to live in, a house or a habitat. All plants require sunlight to grow, to get bigger. All living things need to breathe air. So let's review the words again. Listen and remember the words. You can repeat the words after me, or you can read it on your own. So let's describe picture 1 here. What is this? What do you think this is? So for the living things, the keyword is can. It means we can do it. We are able to do it. So number 1 is living things can grow. Again, repeat after teacher. Living things can grow. Means they can get bigger. Number 2. They can fly, they can run, and they can walk. So living things can move. Again, living things can move. Next one, it's family. There are more people. They have 2 babies. They have a baby girl and a baby boy. So, again, living things can reproduce. Living things can reproduce. Next, we have inhale, exhale. Living things can breathe. Again, can breathe. Living things can breathe. Hot, cold, scared. So living things can. That's right. Living things can respond to stimuli. Living things can respond to stimuli. Again, living things can respond to stimuli. Okay, here we have food and water. So, what can living things do? They need food and water. They need food and water. Living things need food and water. So what do we do when we don't need the things that we eat? When there's bad things in our body? So living things again, living things can remove waste. Can remove waste. Can living things can remove waste. Very good. Again, we're going to repeat the words. Living things can grow. Again, living things can grow. Next one. Living things can move. Living things can move. Living things can reproduce. Living things can reproduce. Reproduce. Living things can breathe. Living things can breathe. Breathe. Next one, we have living things can respond to stimuli. Respond to stimuli. Living things can respond to stimuli. Living things need food and water. Living things need food and water. Living things can remove waste. Living things can remove waste. remove waste. Again, these are all the characteristics of living things. Living things are things that are alive, that can grow, can move, can reproduce, can breathe, can respond to stimuli, need food and water, and can remove waste. So for this one, answer the following questions. You have to identify and answer the pictures. Say yes or no. So for example, we have a chicken here. Is this a living thing? Can it reproduce? Again, is this a living thing? Is chicken a living thing? Can chicken reproduce? Yes or no? That's right. Yes, it is a living thing and it can reproduce. Look at its babies. Next, is this a living thing? Can it move? That's right. Yes, it can move. Therefore, it is a living thing. Is this a living thing? Can it remove waste? No, it's a TV. It cannot move, it cannot grow, and it cannot remove waste. Next, is this a living thing? Does it need food and water? Again, is this a living thing? Does it need food and water? That's right. Yes, it does need food and water. And it is a living thing. We have a hamster. A hamster. Next, is this a living thing? Can it breathe? That's right. Yes, it can breathe. Is this a living thing? Can it grow? That's right. Yes, it can grow. Is this a living thing? Can it respond to stimuli? That's right. Yes, it can respond to stimuli. So write these words in your notebooks. We have can grow, can move, can reproduce or have babies, can breathe, can respond to stimuli, need food and water, can remove waste. You can repeat the words on your own. Okay, let me repeat the words again. Living things can grow. Living things can grow. Living things can move. Living things can move. Living things can reproduce. Living things can reproduce, have babies. Living things can breathe. Living things can breathe. Living things can respond to stimuli. Living things can respond to stimuli. Living things need food and water. Living things need food and water. Living things can remove waste. Living things can remove waste. Very good. Again, we have the words can grow, can move, can reproduce, can breathe, can respond to stimuli, need food and water, can remove. Okay, now let's do your worksheet. Answer your worksheet on hand and read the instruction carefully and answer. So for example, for worksheet number 1, we have living things. Color all the living things. So you just have to color all the living things that you can see in this picture. Color, color, and so on. Worksheet number 2. So for this one, you have to fill in the blanks using the words above. Complete the sentences below. So we have food, water, shelter, air, and sunlight. Don't forget to write your name. So for example, all living things need blank to drink. What do living things drink? So they drink water. You write water in the blank. All living things need to eat blank. All living things require blank to live in. All plants require blank to grow. All living things need to breathe blank. Okay, so you get the words from the box and you complete the sentences below. Last worksheet, you have to talk about the pictures below. Draw lines to connect all the living things to the middle. For example, a spider is a living thing. So you draw a line. It's a living thing. So draw a line to all the living things. Connect all the living things in the circle in the middle. So that's all for today. Very good. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. You can watch the video again and practice more. See you next time. a game for you. It's a match memory game about living things. You can type it in your browser and play the game.